From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 7, streaming now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Mark Mullins. It's Friday night, and that means winter break has officially begun for a lot of schools. But when many Central Indiana students return to learn next year, they'll still be attending class virtually due to the pandemic. One program is giving Indianapolis students the engagement and one-on-one attention they might be missing during this unique school year. WRTV's Cameron Riddle gives us a look.
E-learning has been a bit difficult, keeping the schedule, keeping the focus, keeping the motivation.
8th grader Cameron Covington will tell you himself he's no fan of sitting in front of a computer to go to school.
Person's on the screen, you don't actually meet them in person, and it's boring.
Cameron's mom, Kim, says the lack of one-on-one interaction with someone in front of a classroom was keeping Cameron from succeeding with his writing assignments.
We do what we can at home. We have Cameron read to us, write journals during this time, but we still saw that his writing needed a little bit of help. So we contacted CLD.
The Center for Leadership and Development and their one-on-one virtual tutoring was the answer to the Covington family's needs, with Cameron's writing quickly improving. CLD President Dennis Bland says the sigh of relief from families is the very reason why they are offering tutoring on both nights and weekends free of charge.
So we want to proactively reach out and make sure that students and parents understand not just that these resources are available, but they understand the transformation that can occur when students and families have access to these types of services coming from professionals.
Kim believes the one-on-one attention from a professional is what made all the difference.
I'm not a great writer, so having an expert here to coach him, that has been very helpful.
Cameron Riddle, WRTV.
Well, to learn more about CLD and their professional tutors, you can visit their website. You can find a link to this in our story on the WRTV mobile app. Today, for the third consecutive day, Indiana once again saw more than 6,000 new cases of COVID-19. Newly reported deaths also remain high, with another 84 reported today. That means more than 6,900 Hoosiers have now died with the coronavirus. And in what hospitals hope is a good sign, the number of patients with COVID-19 is falling slowly. However, that number remains above 3,000.
This virus is so scary. We can have patients that will be talking to us, totally doing fine, and within an hour we're putting a breathing tube in them.
That's why so many frontline healthcare workers are not hesitating to get vaccinated against COVID-19. This week, Ascension St. Vincent Hospital completed its first round of vaccinations with Pfizer's vaccine. We spoke to a respiratory therapist who is encouraging everyone to get the vaccine when it's available.
We have very, very smart people, very educated people that's been working around the clock on this vaccine. I say I would be more scared of what COVID is doing to people than what this vaccine.
Ascension said it vaccinated another nearly 800 employees today. Other healthcare workers in Central Indiana are also getting the coronavirus vaccine. By the end of the day, more than 200 healthcare workers will have gotten their shot at Franciscan Health on the south side today. The hospital received almost 1,000 initial doses of the Pfizer vaccine yesterday, and it's expecting 3,000 doses to arrive over the next 2 weeks. Community Health Network is also working with its first vaccine shipment. Frontline workers are getting vaccinated at Community Hospital North in Indianapolis and Community Hospital in Anderson. Yesterday's Community's vaccine team did a trial run with 14 workers. Coming off our first snow of the season, and it's melted in most spots, WRTV Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Kevin Gregory joining me here to tell us about the night ahead. Hey, Kevin.
Mark, it sounds like you want the snow to be refreshed. You want a little new coating. We'll talk about the potential for that in the middle of next week. Not tonight, though. Temperatures, they're pretty steady, so if you're headed out to Christmas nights at the lights or to the Indianapolis Zoo, temperatures in the 30s. That's not a bad temperature for this time of year. Temperatures across the state, lower 30s to upper 20s. It's 29 in Fort Wayne, while it's 38 in Evansville. The cloud cover in place across central Indiana. No snow or rain until you get to portions of Iowa, northern Wisconsin, Lake Superior. That's where the snow is. That will become our rain chance during the day tomorrow. 33 at 10 o'clock tonight. The clouds will be with us, the south wind noticeable 10 to 15 miles per hour. In the morning hours tomorrow, temperature will move to 38 by noon. We'll peak in the low 40s or around 40. We'll have more detail on our rain chance for tomorrow. Look into the snow potential for the middle of next week as well.
Thousands of vaccines are making their way across the state, but are they being given out equally? Coming up, how one group is fighting to make sure all people are represented with equity in the fight against the coronavirus. Plus, a little later, every family looks different, and now one local health provider is working to make sure all people feel included when it comes to growing that family. A new inclusive class that's bringing people who understand each other together. You're watching WRTV. This is the news at 7 on WRTV. As we get ready for the public to be vaccinated for COVID-19, a major push is underway to make sure it is being distributed equally and that those who need it most have access to it. Several organizations teamed up with the ACLU of Indiana to send a letter to Governor Holcomb calling for equitable distribution. WRTV's Megan Sanctorum has more.
This is the letter to Governor Holcomb, signed by the ACLU of Indiana and several community organizations. It calls for transparency and equity with the public vaccination plan.
One that does not discriminate based on who people are.
We've reported in the past on how certain communities have been disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. According to the ACLU, the infection rate in prisons is 83% higher than the state's infection rate as a whole. Those in congregate care facilities and minority populations also disproportionately impacted.
And that comes not only because their health situation, they tend to have higher comorbidities. People with who in the minority communities have jobs, which expose them more to the virus.
Something Tony Mason with the Indianapolis Urban League has seen firsthand.
Every day we get to see the impacts of the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. The families and the community that we serve that struggled well before the pandemic, but the disparities have worsened what we see.
He signed on to the letter as well, saying groups like his are ready and willing to help educate at-risk communities and help distribute the vaccine.
We hosted COVID testing here as a part of our drive-through weekly food distributions. We've also done flu shots here, and so we're willing to play our part as a community partner to make it available.
Right now, under Governor Holcomb's plan, Phase 1A includes healthcare workers. Next up, under 1B, is vulnerable populations. However, the specifics have yet to be released. The ACLU hoping to learn more about that soon.
Transparency would give all of us faith that this vaccine is being distributed in a fair and equitable way.
Working for you, Megan Sanctorum, WRTV.
The Urban League of Indianapolis says it hopes to start working with health leaders in January to come up with a plan for vaccine clinics and education. Every day, more questions pop up over the coronavirus vaccine. Coming up here, we're tapping the best minds in the area to get answers you might be seeking.
From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 7, streaming now.
As the vaccine begins to roll out to healthcare workers this week, IU Health and Ascension St. Vincent are already starting the process of vaccinating staff members, as we've been reporting. We wanted to answer some of the most pressing questions that you might have about the vaccine. WRTV's Stephanie Wade is working to answer your questions tonight.
As the vaccine is rolled out to frontline workers, people in the general public are starting to think about whether they will want to get the vaccine or not once it becomes more widely available, and have many questions surrounding the vaccination process.
As any new vaccine, right, there are still going to be some unknowns in terms of how long that immunity lasts.
There are still many questions waiting to be answered about this new COVID-19 vaccine.
What are the side effects of this vaccine? I think people are worried about side effects.
You're debating, should I or shouldn't I, right? Think about your risk factors. So if you are high risk, if you are over the age 65 or 75, right? Do you have other comorbidities? Do you have heart disease? Do you have respiratory conditions? Are you overweight or obese?
People with any of these pre-existing conditions, health experts say should be at the highest priority for receiving the vaccine. Both IU Health infectious disease specialist and UIndy assistant professor of public health agree you might have some side effects like any other vaccine.
You start getting those fevers, fatigue, headaches, muscle aches, and it looks like you have the virus.
But those will resolve within a day or two.
I just want people to know that even if you get them with the first dose, please take your second despite those side effects.
With both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, should Moderna get approved, you will need to get 2 doses for it to be effective. Otherwise, you won't be considered protected from the virus. Pfizer requires a 3-week period in between doses. Moderna requires 4.
Should I prefer one manufacturer's vaccine over the other? I think I can tell you that they all went through the same vetting process, right?
There are more differences in how they're stored and what temperatures they're stored at, but from a medical perspective, they are very, very similar.
Some people also worry of an allergic reaction to the virus in some reported cases.
The 2 that had it in Britain had already were prone to get severe allergies where they had to carry an EpiPen around. So this is not your typical, I have an allergy to penicillin or I have an allergy to food.
They expect doctors will alert patients once they have the vaccine to schedule their appointment. Which vaccine people receive, however, will likely come down to access. It's also unclear how long the virus might protect you.
I think that's a question that is a magic ball question. We don't know. We have seen that there's at least 2 different strains of COVID that are out there, that it has mutated. Is it something that will continue to mutate?
Stephanie Wade, WRTV.
At this time, the vaccine is not approved for people younger than 16 years old. They've only been monitoring the clinical trials for a few months, so it's still unclear about any long-term effects. To reach herd immunity, experts say we need 60 to 70% of the people to be vaccinated to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Right now on our app and online, we have everything you need to know about the COVID-19 vaccines. We've got information in a question and answer format, so it's easy to follow and understand. Plus several stories you'll want to see as Indiana receives more doses of COVID vaccine. Make sure to download the free WRTV app to keep up with any updates.
And Mark, a nice Friday night in progress. We'll talk about some weekend changes. First, to some holiday lights. Thanks to Michael Barker for sharing this picture. And Michael, I stared at your grill for a little bit for any sign that you were still grilling out. We've certainly had many December days where that would have been good to do, and we'll have a few early next week as temperatures warm right back up. Thanks for sharing the holiday lights. Of course, State Fairgrounds, over 2 million lights there for the Christmas Nights of Lights. Well, temperatures will peak Wednesday. Notice I've missed the weekend for a second. We'll get back to that. But I just want to show you Wednesday, temperatures upper 40s to around 50. The warmer it feels then, the colder it will feel Thursday and on Christmas Day. It's quite the slope downhill as temperatures will fall. The colder air sits to our west at the beginning of next week, and then it takes over by the end of next week. Santa will not be wearing shorts. 26 the temperature, that's the optimistic high after starting probably in the lower teens. There is a slight chance we could see a white Christmas. As we make the transition and that Arctic front arrives, it will generate some rain first, changing it to snow. This is Wednesday night. The blue represents the snow. As the colder air catches the retreating moisture, we may have a little cover of snow, maybe an inch. We'll have to refine that. We're still a long way out. There's your cold plunge. All the way to the deep south. This will be felt to the Florida Panhandle, the Gulf Coast, and the southeast U.S. So nobody escapes really in the eastern half of the country. Chance for a white Christmas historically right around 30%, and we're in that ballpark again. Temperatures, they're in the 30s and stuck. The cloud cover won't allow them to go very far. Temperatures will drop into the lower 30s. That's about it. Chance for showers tomorrow, just about any time from the morning hours into the afternoon. 7-day forecast, we put it together for you. Warmest temperatures early next week. Monday, chance of some rain showers, 45. You can see what happens Tuesday and Wednesday. Temperatures up to 48 Wednesday, rain changing to snow, and then it turns colder, much colder, Mark, by the end of the week.
All right, Kevin, thank you. Not all families are built the same, but many parents share the need for guidance through the labor process and early days of their child's life. And that's why the Riley Children's Health Labor and Delivery Team at IU Health Methodist launched the state's first birth class designed for LGBTQ families. WRTV's Amanda Starantino talked to a couple about what this program means for their community and growing families.
Micah Baugh and Haley Spencer are parents to 2 boys.
Our oldest is 7, and I carried him. He's living his best life in 3rd grade. What was he, 4 when we, were thinking about having another one? So we pursued that, and she carried the little guy, and he's now 2.5. He's a wild child.
Finley, their youngest, was born at IU Health North Hospital. The parents took advantage of all the resources the hospital offered when Haley was pregnant, but they felt they were missing out on important conversations.
When you're sitting there talking about the mechanics of birthing a child, that's not something necessarily that you want to talk about, or we didn't necessarily want to talk about with some heterosexual couples. And to be fair, they may have been uncomfortable too.
The new childbirth class at IU Health will feature the same educational content as previous classes, plus time dedicated exclusively to topics of importance shared by LGBTQ families.
We wanted people to feel comfortable asking questions without fear of judgment. We felt like some of our families may not feel comfortable asking, specific, like gender specific questions or using pronouns particularly, or they just didn't want to be in a room where they maybe felt judged.
Candace King is a labor and delivery nurse at Methodist Hospital, and she teaches the new class for LGBTQ families.
It's a safe place where they can ask whatever they want and not have to worry about that. And maybe even have somebody that they can relate to, whether it's another couple that is quote unquote non-traditional, as well as myself, the instructor, just being a member of the LGBT community is a little more relatable to them.
Some topics covered in the class are breastfeeding, hormone therapy, and desired pronouns used by family members. While this class did not yet exist when Micah and Haley were going through their pregnancies, both mothers are involved in the creation of this class.
There is some sort of trauma that happens in the LGBT community in terms of healthcare and medical providers. That's just a reality. So to know that I can get on IU North or Riley or Methodist or whatever website and see LGBTQ just out there and very public, that is a big deal.
The mothers hope this class will bring validation to other LGBTQ couples on their journeys to grow their own families.
The nuances that you pass on, your little ones that connect you, and that really, the whole purpose of having kids was originally for being able to pass on things about you, and that's not done purely through blood.
And that was Amanda Starantino reporting. The first class took place at the beginning of December and is virtual right now due to the pandemic. The class will be held quarterly. We'll be right back. This holiday season, local children who have been impacted by gun violence will receive toys and clothes. The group Purpose for My Pain, created by Indianapolis mother Deandra Dykes, is organizing the effort to give back to these families. Dykes hosts several events throughout the year as a way for mothers to connect and process their grief. She says it felt really good to come together in what is one of the toughest times of the year for families who have suffered a loss. The families will receive their gifts tomorrow.
Rain chances around during the day tomorrow. Temperatures not too much different than today. There we are at 7 a.m. I take this to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Light showers around by 7. They're starting to scoot to the east, but we still may have a couple of showers. Should be dry for the second half of the weekend and then up and away early next week. Mark?
All right, the holiday week next week. Thanks, Kevin. And thank you for joining us at 7. We'll see you back here tonight at 11. Have a good evening.